Good afternoon, everyone. I am Shianell and I will be reporting the topic 3, which is the kinetic molecular theory. So let us dive into our discussion. So the definition of kinetic molecular theory is that it states that gas particles are in constant motion and exhibit perfectly elastic collision. So ang kinetic molecular theory, mauni siya ang ga-explain sa mga movement sa gases. This theory pwede na siya magamit as a base para sa other laws of gases. Okay, next. So, ang kinetic molecular theory is na siya 5 postulates. So, let us dive in o atong tunan kung unsa ni siya ang 5 ka postulate sa kinetic molecular theory. Postulate 1 is that gases consist of particles in constant motion. So, mag-assume ta nga ang gas is made up of particles, then these particles are always in motion. Throughout their motion, these particles travel in straight lines unless they collide with something and unless it's other gas particles or the wall of the container. And they bounce off and change direction. So, kung ang kuan daw, ang postulate 1, ang meaning ani kay ang gases daw kay permi daw siya galihok or in constant motion. So, it travels on a straight line. Sa inyo pa makita diya sa picture. So, it travels in straight lines unless nga mag-collide siya og something like gas particles or magbangga siya sa wall sa container nga kung asa siya nabutang. Next. Okay, next. Postulate 2. So, postulate 2, it means that gases are mostly empty space. So, kani, let's assume that gas is mostly empty space or wala jud space, which is opposite sa solid o sa liquid. Sa inyo pang makita sa other picture kaning na ay blue o violet, it shows a solid particle. So the gas, this postulate states that opposite daw ang gas sa solid o sa liquid, kaya ang solid is non-compressible kay ang particles niya kay tightly packed together. So sa liquid o sa solid, there are very little empty space. So, kung mayroon gas, so empty space, and then, pag mayroon solid and liquid, it has packed, tightly packed, tapos gamay ra ang iyahang empty space. Next. Postulate 3. Particle exerts pressure when colliding with the container. So kani, if there are a lot of particles moving very fast, there are many collisions, so the system has a lot of pressure. Okay, so kani siya, if magkuan ang air or ang gas, magkuan siya sa container, pag dagan kayo og kanang particles, so mag-move siya og fast, which mag-create og dako nga pressure sa container. Let's move on to the next. Okay, so ang next is postulate 4. It states that particles don't interact. So, dire, we assume that the particles do not interact with each other. So, we ignore that the gas particles can exert any kind of gravitational or electromagnetic influence sa one another. So, dili na to, huna-huna. So, dili nga postulate is dili niya consider nga ang gas particles maka-exert og gravitational or electromagnetic influence. Pero, technically, they can interact slightly due to dispersion interaction or dipole-dipole interaction if ang molecular kay polar. Tungod kay di interact slightly, the collision is considered as negligible, so it is purely elastic. Kung may nguntag elastic, it means that there is no loss of kinetic energy. O kung mag-collide man ni siya kay slightly They interact slightly man, so they will just bounce off with each other. They do not interact. And the last postulate is postulate 5. So it states here that molecular speed is proportional to temperature. So if you increase the temperature, you increase the kinetic energy, which means that the particles will be moving faster. So if temperature goes up, particles move faster. So kung muinit, so for example, muinit ang surface nga na ay gas. So ang gas particles, they will move faster. So these are the 5 postulates of kinetic molecular theory, and kani siya nga theory, it has a purpose. So the purpose of this kinetic molecular theory will be discussed by my group member.
Okay, so kinetic molecular theory has a purpose. So this purpose is that it explains the macroscopic properties of gases and can be used to understand and explain the gas laws. So first gas law that we're going to explain is the Boyle's law. So in Boyle's law, if we keep temperature constant, meaning the molecules move at the same speed, increasing the volume must decrease the pressure because the particles have to move further to reach the sides, and decreasing the volume must then increase the pressure. This is why pressure and volume are inversely proportional. Bale mo ni siyang reason nga nung sa Boyle's law, makita nato nga yung equation is P1 V1 equals P2 V2, diba? Muna equation sa Boyle's law. Tapos inversely proportional ang pressure and volume, which means if taas gani ang volume, then mubo dayon ang atong pressure. And then if baliktad sa dayon nga, if ang pressure mo taas, meaning ang volume po dayon ang mubo. So next dayon is ang Charles law. So sa Charles law, if we increase the temperature in order to keep pressure constant, meaning the frequency of collision stays the same, the volume must expand because if the particles move faster but also move farther, they will hit the sides with the same frequency as before. This is why volume and temperature are directly proportional. So sa Charles law, if you can remember, ang Charles law, ang equation niya ana is V1 over T1 is equal to V2 over T2. So the volume and the temperature are directly proportional. So meaning, kung taas gani si temperature, si volume is taas po siya. So kung baliktad sa dayon, kung ang volume po dayon ang mubo, that means mubo pod si temperature. So parehara sila kung mubo pod, like for example mubo pod si temperature, so mubo pod si volume. So they are directly proportional. Dayon next dayon is Amonton's law. So in Amonton's law, it states that increasing the temperature while keeping the volume constant, the pressure must increase as the particles are moving faster. This is why pressure and temperature are directly proportional. So na-mention ni siya sa postulate 5 nga if ang temperature is mo increase, then ang pressure is mo increase po siya. So same lang bitaw Japon siya sa Charles law nga directly proportional. So diri lang ang directly proportional is ang pressure ug ang temperature. So bale kung si temperature is taas, si pressure is taas po siya. Tapos kung mubo po si temperature, mubo po si pressure. So in ana lang, directly proportional. So that's it. Kinetic molecular theory has the power to explain all the ideal gas laws. So mura to siya ang purpose sa kinetic molecular theory.
So good day everyone. So I'm here to elaborate a little bit about our topic, which is the kinetic molecular theory. So as we all know, kinetic molecular theory states that particles are always in motion, meaning they don't stop when they start to move. No, some particles, when first introduced to a space, will remain a a little bit uh, motionless, or it moves a little bit each time, and it will not move unless certain interactions happens. Either it is burned or uh, put into a cold region, which affects its movement and kinetic energy. So, for example, when you put a balloon in a freezer, as you can observe, it will decrease in size because the pressure and the molecules will start to slow down or lower. So if we can elaborate that more, when we put the balloon in a fire, we put it below the fire, above the fire, sorry, it will expand and explode. Why? Because temperature is the main thing that makes molecules move faster or slower. So, and also, that is why gases expand and occupy the space they are given to. So, meaning if you have a jar which is fully empty and there's nothing in it, uh, but there is particles there that is moving constantly. They are not stopping at a fixed pace depending on the temperature. So, when the change of temperature happens, diffusion is the key component onto why this happens. So when you start with high concentration, meaning it is fast, the particles are fast because of high temperature. When it slows down, when the temperature goes lower, diffusion happens, and vice versa. So that is like the most concept of kinetic molecular theory. Thank you so much for watching.